everybody, to this new episode of Conversations Over Cocktails. I'm Brad Carrick. I'm here as always with the LV crew, and we're going to talk about something today that's super important and super interesting. I think everyone's going to get a lot out of this. We're going to talk about branding. And if you're starting a fashion business, this is one of the most important things that you can think about. When you start a business, we always like to tell people that you have to think about your business as an independent entity. But this business is also a reflection of you. So as you're creating your brand, keep these things in mind. One thing we want to talk about is the idea of a personal versus a professional brand. Nishika, maybe you have a thought on this. You've started one yourself.
Sure. Thanks for asking, Brad. So you're absolutely right, because at the very beginning of your business, both brands are actually one and the same. You'll find that people look at you as a designer and they attribute whatever characteristics you're putting out there to mean the characteristics of the brand. Now you hope you grow to a point where they become separate entities, and they should, but that takes a while. It takes about a year or two before your brand as a company starts to build its own personality, and then people start to leave you alone a little bit. Not completely, but a little bit.
Absolutely, and I think one thing that I'm sure you've seen and that most designers or entrepreneurs see when they start a business is, what's the name going to be? In your case, the name overlaps with your own personal name, and that's something to keep in mind. In other cases, you pick a very different name. Greg, this may be something you can talk about, because one of the most important things about thinking about a brand is how to protect it and give it a life. When it comes to the legal side of things, how do you see that working out with regards to branding?
Well, you have to think ahead. When you start your company, it's small. Maybe yourself and other people helping out. But as it grows, it's going to get much, much, much larger. So here's some things to consider. If you use your name, and let's say you want to sell your company one day, are you comfortable selling your name? If
Look at Jill Saunders.
right,
Jimmy Choo. Yeah.
right. So other things you should consider. How unique is your name? If you use your name, you want to use something that stands out. So if you have a very unique name, that may be a consideration as well. Maybe you want to use your name.
Yeah, and we see this all the time when we're doing trademarks, because these things are relevant and they matter. You can't just choose a name and say that's going to be it. You have to see if it's available. If someone else has that name, you may find yourself in a legal problem. It isn't just for trademarks, though. It's for URLs and social media. Katie, you have an idea about that, I imagine?
Yeah, one of the most important things you can do is really do some research before you get started to make sure that you can carry that name across all the platforms. In order to be a dynamic brand this day and age, you can't reserve yourself to one type of social media. You can't just have a website. You need to put yourself out there. And one of the best things you can do when you're getting started is to make sure that name that you decide on, that name that you trademark, that name that you get the URL for, make sure that it's available on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever's relevant to you and your brand.
So what you're saying, I'm hearing too, consistency there. So consistency in name across all of your platforms.
And it's important for two reasons. Not just consistency in terms of making sure everyone can find you on every platform, but also it makes your life easier as someone who's putting out your social media, because you can link your accounts. If they have two different names, you can't link them. So it makes it easier for you, and when you're a business owner, you always want to do something that's going to make it easier for you.
And this is a really interesting point. A lot of people say, I'm going to take things one step at a time. Maybe I'll get a URL first. Down the road, when I have time to think about it or money, I'll trademark it then. I think it's probably...
And then it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone, and you've probably wasted, or some resources or some money on something that you could have avoided if you put the thought into it up front.
It's one of the most important things you do in terms of developing your brand is you want to, one, develop your brand, but two, you have to get it in front of your potential clients. And the best way to do that is to have your brand be consistent across every channel.
Yeah, and I think that, saying that I'm going to designate a little bit of time and a little bit of budget for doing this and doing it right ends up actually saving a lot of time and a lot of money in the long run.
Absolutely. Well, and heartbreak.
Yeah.
You get to the point where you have this amazing business and you're so excited to get it out in front of people, and you have to change your name because it's not available. Or you got the website but no social media channels, and no one can find you on Facebook because it's under a different name.
when this is a super important point, you know, because brands and companies take on a personality of their own.
Absolutely.
Whether it's named after yourself or a totally different name, the brand has its personality. I mean, you've seen this. You were mentioning this.
Yeah, I was also thinking of the strategy that you should start by looking at your exit strategy. So if you leave one day your company, can that brand personality live on? And there's numerous examples in the fashion industry of designers that are so intertwined with their brand that sometimes the brand doesn't survive. So I think that's an important factor to take into consideration.
Absolutely.
Right. And also, if you sell, are you okay with being detached from your name?
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
in my instance, it's my last name, De Rosairo. So how am I going to feel about somebody else running a company called De Rosairo that I have no ownership over, yet it's my last name?
Like look at Saint Laurent right now with Hedi Slimane.
Right.
You know, when he changed it from Yves Saint
Saint
Laurent
Laurent
to
to
Saint
Saint
Laurent, there was a lot of controversy, and so brand personality is definitely a factor that everyone really should consider.
Yeah, I think all too often designers start by saying, well, this is me. I'm putting my life into this, and I want to, you know, that to be,
personal statement.
yeah, I want this to be a personal statement. And we like to emphasize that you can make a personal statement, and your brand can be a reflection of you without being you. I mean, Nishika, you have different social media for your own personal use and for your brand.
Correct. And so with Instagram, you know, it depends on the social media too, right? Because you'll find a lot of designers using Instagram for a mixture of their own personal life and also the
Giving
brand.
you a peek behind the scenes.
Right, because it's behind the
Their
scenes. You know,
lifestyle.
what am I eating? Where am I going? What am I designing? What's on sale? You know, what's the latest design? But then for Facebook, I have my own page and then I have my business page. But again, they're still related because people watch me to kind of see what's happening with the business.
Absolutely.
So I have to be conscious of what's on my personal page because they still hold me as a strong symbol of the business. I am the designer, I am the owner. And so there is an intertwine, even though we are sort of speaking to different audiences, I have to be cognizant at every point in time.
So maybe you'd say there's a separation, but not a complete severing of a brand from a personality.
Absolutely.
Or you can look at Maison Margiela when Margiela was doing it. You know, no one's ever seen him. He doesn't attend events.
Nope.
You could have an opposite strategy and just become.
I think that
Just
the
the
idea,
brand.
as long as you have a brand strategy,
Yes.
it's better than not having a strategy.
Yeah, and so what we're talking about are different ways to approach it. The whole point behind this is you need to take a minute to think about how you want to approach it.
I think
Write
that's a
it
very
down.
good point.
Yeah.
And a consistent theme I'm hearing here in everything that we're saying is foreplanning. Take a second. Stop. You have a great idea. The first gut instinct is to just get into the room and start cutting patterns and start doing. But no, take a step back and plan. Have that plan and it'll save you
It'll
problems down the
save
road.
you problems,
Problems,
and
money,
time,
Time, stress. Because
Absolutely.
Lord knows you're going to get all of that
Anyway,
anyway. So
save yourself
you're going
some time
if you're
and
starting it, you know.
plan your brand identity.
Right.
Yeah, so putting a little time into branding is something that will save you some stress down the road.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that there's so much that we could talk about branding. We'll leave it at that for now. But speaking of stress, Jill, maybe you can tell us what we're drinking today.
Yeah, well, today I went off the norm and I have a rum and coke here, Havana Club rum. And I think my partners here all chose some different things. What did you guys have?
I actually copied Jill because she has such great taste.
And I'm having a ginger beer vodka.
Ooh.
I followed that because I'm a follower.
Brad and I are followers.
And I'm having a lemon drop because my last name is Lemmons. So I figure why not?
that.
Yeah, well,
Way to drop it.
yeah. So,
Well, thank you for joining us today for this episode of Conversations Over Cocktails. Please take a minute and find us on social media and our website, legallyvogue.com, and social media, Facebook and Instagram, Legally Vogue. And first of all, we would love it if you could just take a quick moment, leave us a comment down below, tell us what you liked, what you want to see different, what do you think you need for your business that we can help you with. So leave a comment below, and we can't wait to hear from you.
cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.